Hi, this is Quinn, and welcome to QuinTech. Well, I'm not going to give away what I'm going to show in this video because I want it to be kind of a big reveal for my good buddy Adam, who I currently have a video challenge with. I did my first video with my Amiga 2000, and that inspired him to pull out all his Amiga equipment, and he's done a few videos. I think we've matched 6 for 6 right now. Um, But he has several Amiga systems. He started with he started with just showing off what he has in his garage, and then the second video was about the Amiga 3000. The third and fourth videos were about the Amiga 2000, and then he's done 5 and 6 videos about his Amiga 1200, and he says there's a third one that he already shot all the footage. He's just got to edit it down for his third Amiga 1200 video, and he's going to continue on with some other videos. But you should go over his channel and check it out because I think his content is really interesting. He owns a channel called Bally Alley. He's a big Bally Astrocade um, fan, and most of his videos are about the Bally Astrocade, but there's a few other things in there, but mostly Bally Astrocade. But now he has all these Amiga videos on there in response to mine. So this video is about something near and dear to my heart. Um, Maybe almost as near and dear as the Amiga, but I'm sure you'll be able to tell that by the exuberance with which I show in this video. But I'm not going to tell you what it is right now. You'll find out with the reveal when Adam does. So, um, thank you again for coming along on the journey with me, and I hope you enjoy it. I do have to warn you, this is all shot doing handheld, so don't get woozy, don't get motion sickness. I'm not the greatest cinematographer in the world, even though I come from a family that are all filmmakers. They all went to film school. I didn't, but I'm I'm trying, and I hope you're enjoying my content, and I hope you come back for the next one. And if you like this one, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. Subscribe, like, all that jazz. And, well, without further ado, let's move on with my video. Alright, take care. Wow, look at this box. It's kind of beat up. What could be inside it? 2 pacer printers and 1 ticket carrier. What is that? Oh, and on this side, payroll 2003, 2 pacer printers, 1 ticket carrier. What is a pacer printer? Well, I used to work at a movie theater, and that's the little machine that pops the ticket up, and then you tear it off, and that's what you hand to the patron. You collect the cash or the card, and you swipe the card, or you take the cash, give them their change back, and that prints out on a pacer printer. And a ticket carrier lays below that. It's just like a little metal cage that holds the tickets that are folded back and forth like this, that feeds up into this printer. But this is just a box, so I got this from my old job. I guess, were getting rid of um, their old documents, and I needed a box, and they were about to throw it away, and I said, can I have it? So what is in this box? Well, let's take a look. BASF 5 1/4 inch discs. Oh, this must be some retro stuff. Oh, what is this? What is this? What is this plethora of amazing Atari 8-bit greatness? This was gifted to me by my great buddy Adam, who we currently have a video, kind of like a video not a standoff. We're doing a back and forth to motivate each other to make new videos. So this is going to be my latest video about this Atari 800XL and all these peripherals that my good friend Adam probably doesn't even remember giving me around 98 or 99, a little bit before I left Albuquerque, where he still lives. So we're going to pull all this stuff out and we're going to play with it. And I'm going to show you a lot of stuff. And I hope you enjoy this video because, hell, I'm going to enjoy it. So even if you don't worry, I'm going to have fun. So this is going to be great. Was my very first home computer. I bought it at Kmart when I lived in Albuquerque as a teenager. I think I was about 14 or 15. And it was the display model. And it was this. It was the Atari 800 XL. This is not that actual device. I lost that. But this is a replacement device that my buddy Adam gave me. The one I had, this metal part here, was like, it was the display model. People at the store would like play on it. It was hooked up to a TV or something. And this part was like bent up and cracked. But this one, everything feels great on this one. Listen to that. Listen to that. Doesn't that... It just has a good feel to it. There's a little bit of resistance and it bounces up quick. I booted this up. I hooked this up around the same time that I hooked up my Amiga a few years ago, about 15 years ago, I think it was. And it worked fine. It worked fine. So I'm just going to show off all the stuff I have here. And this might turn into 2 videos or 3, because I want to show off some of the software, because this is stuff I grew up with and that I remember fondly. But my buddy Adam, he hooked it up. I mean, seriously. Like, you could buy one of these online probably for maybe 50, 100 bucks. I don't know how much they go for right now. Just this by itself. But he hooked it up. Look at this. Look in this box. Oh my goodness. He's got software. He's got not only 1, but 2 of the awesome Atari 1050 hard drives. This one is way more yellowed than this one, and that one's way dirtier than, well, they're both about the same dirtiness. But look at these sleek lines. Look at this grill. Oh, I love that look. Some people say it's alright, but I think that's cool. Way cooler than a Commodore 64, that everything was round, and their disk drive was pretty big, but I think it was larger than this, and it was much slower. So, and that grill aesthetic works around here. They had... I've been watching a lot of videos, so I've kind of boned up on my Amiga 8-bit history. First they came out with the Amiga 400 and the 800. The 400 had this like not a membrane, like one of those, not even a real keyboard, like one of those, yeah, membrane keyboard. And it was like this big thing, and it could only get up to a certain amount of RAM. I think 20, 30, 24 or 32K or something like that. And then they had the Amiga 800, which had the full-size keyboard. And those were kind of cool-looking systems. They came out in the late 70s, actually, shortly after the Atari 2600 came out. And they had this lid that would pop up, and you could add these like RAM expansions, and they were really heavy because they had these like strict FCC laws about radio frequency, so they had to make it all out of metal, heavy metal, and it made the thing heavy. But the other weird thing about them, they had like two cartridge slots so that you could plug two cartridges in at the same time. And what most people did back then was they would have a basic cartridge that they plugged there, and then they'd have their game cartridge or whatever else right there. Well, the cool thing with the 800XL was it had even more RAM than I think a fully maxed out official 800XL, unless you had some third party like hack, like extra RAM thing. But this came with 64K, so it had the same amount of RAM as the Commodore 64, and that's the one it's most related to or compared to, because they were kind of the rivals back in the day. I remember, like, as an Atari user, we used to I saw this image where it looked like a toilet seat, and with the Commodore symbol, it was like the C with the equal sign on the side, and it said Commodore, because the Commodore was crap and the Atari was awesome. So, in like looking back on this, yes, my experience with this was much cooler. And I did have a couple of friends back in the day one in particular that I remember that had a Commodore 64, and he showed off how his did, and he showed me his, and I showed him mine. But anyway, this came out in like 82 or 83, right before the Commodore 64 came out, but it was based on the old 800 and 400 that had come out in like 78 or 79. So it was already 3-4-year-old technology when they made this. They just kind of condensed everything. The FCC restrictions on how they could build it had kind of relaxed a little bit. There's still this big metal shielding inside here, and it only has one cartridge port. However, Atari Basic is already built in. It's on a ROM in here or something. So this system was cool. So aside from that, the more stuff that my friend Adam gave me, he gave me everything you could ever want, just about. I have, if you want to plug up to an old school TV or even a newer one with some sort of adaptation. Do you remember these? If you're as old as me, you will remember this from your old Atari days. You had your old TV that had the two little screws on the back, well, had four, two for VHF and two for UHF. But you plug these up to the VHF, and you could switch between watching TV and hooking up your computer or video game system. So, and that's what this little slider does here. It switches between computer and TV. And so this is possibly a more modern one, because it does have the coax there, but it also has the old school 2-screw method, right? I think that's the 75 ohm and that's the 300 ohm, or I could have it backwards. Maybe that's a 75 ohm, that's a 300 ohm. I don't know. Anyway, so he gave me this to be able to hook up to RF. This is the RF output from the Atari that has to plug into this. Oh, and look, it comes with, wow, it's hard to do this when it's still inside the bag. This is how it would hook to the back of the TV with 2 wires, right? Luckily, I still have some of those adapters that you screw those 2 wires in and it plugs up to something more like that. Well, what else did he give me? Well, he gave me these 2 floppy drives, stackable. Oh, and they're even marked D1 and D2. They're already even set up, ready for this system. I used to have, back in the day, it was called the Happy Drive. It was some kind of hack that you added some extra board inside of here, and it allowed you to copy protected discs, and it also made it a little bit faster or something. But these don't have that, but that's okay. I used to have that. That's what I had back then, but this is what I have now, and I've had this since 97 or 98, and I played with it once in 2005, and now I'm pulling it back out in 2020. So, wow. It also came with, he threw in the Atari 850 adapter. And if you don't know what this is, this lets you use, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, because see those plugs? I never showed you around the 800XL. Shoot. Well, I gotta get back to that. I'll come right back to that. Well, let me show you around the system. So, this is your keyboard, and it's got all these function keys, and it's kind of cool. You got your reset, you got your option, you got your select, your start, and your help keys. And as you see, there's no F keys, so these are what are your function keys. That's what F key stands for, if you didn't know that. Function keys. So, if we slide around the side here, you got 2 standard Atari joystick ports, which got used in many systems. It went for the Commodore 64 used them, the Amiga used them, the Sega Genesis used them, and probably several other systems that I'm not even sure about, or not even aware of. Okay, and then let's look around the back. Well, this is the port I wanted to mention here. This is the Atari serial port that attached to many Atari devices, including those 2 hard floppy drives and that serial parallel little device that I showed you. And this was a neat thing about the Atari 800XL that had this, it had this parallel bus plug, and I don't remember ever having any devices that plugged into that. Usually it has this little cover that covers that. This one is missing. And then you have your monitor plug, which lets you do composite out. You've got your RF, which I showed you the RF jack, or the way you plug up through your coax, or you plug up to either channel 2 or 3 on your TV. Then you got your channel selector. You can choose between channels 2 or 3 on your TV. Then you got your power input and the on-off switch. And yeah, that's about it for the plugs. So, I was talking about this, the peripheral port, they call it. So this device, the Atari 850, you plugged in through your peripheral port, which is the same plug on the back of your floppy drives, right? And this has a drive select, so I have more than one drive, so you can select which drive it's going to be by switching all these little jumpers inside here. And then you got your pass-through peripheral, I can't say that right now, peripheral plug, and your power. So this is the peripheral plug, and this is how you connect all your devices together. You can daisy chain them, which means you can plug one into the next one, into the next one, and into the next one. So this is something my buddy Adam hooked me up with. And another peripheral cord. We have 3 devices, remember. And yet another peripheral cord. So we can hook all 3 devices. The 1050, the second 1050, and the 850, which all bear sort of a resemblance. I think the 850 was an older device that came out when the 800 and 400 were out, but it still works with the 800XL, because the 800XL is practically 100% compatible with any older devices and software. Because I think there were older floppy drives. There were older floppy drives that came out that kind of more matched the old style of the 400 and the 800. But these could also work on the 400 and 800 because they use the same standards. So this device allows you to plug up to your Atari peripheral port, and then in the back you've got 4 plugs. So you've got the serial interface, and that's upside down, sorry, but this would be easier. You've got one, 2, your serial interface, 3, and 4. And this one already has attached to it, which also came from my buddy. I believe this is a serial plug, but it could be a parallel. I can't quite remember. Anyway, it hooks probably a serial. And this could plug up to a modem. I used to have, when I was a kid, this was long before I met Adam, but we were both living in Albuquerque at the time, or maybe he wasn't even there yet. This was in like 1985, 86 or 87, something like that. And I got my 800 XL, and it wasn't this one, it was like a more updated one that looked, I think it was a third-party one that didn't even look like an Atari device, but it meant it was made to hook up to Atari. So I had that device that had this I don't think it had 4 plugs. I think it only had 2 serials and 1 parallel, because that's really all you needed. And then I got a modem, and I discovered the world of BBSs, which was amazing. And my mom loves to tell this story about after I got into BBSs, and we were fighting for the phone because people would be calling and I'd be on the modem tying up the phone line. So I talked her into getting me my own separate phone line so I could log into my BBSs. Well, the first thing I do, I start dialing all these BBSs from all around the country that would post on the local BBS or on the software I download from them. And sure enough, within the first month, my bill was like $500 or $600, and I was getting like an allowance of maybe $100 a month, which actually, sorry, that sounds really privileged back in the 80s. My grandfather was very generous, and he worked hard for all the money that he ever made, but I had to pay my allowance to my mom for like 4 or 5 months after that to pay off that debt, and it was fun while it lasted, and I had that access for 1 month, and then it was gone. Okay, so let's move on to the other things I have here. Well, I said I have an RF plug there, right? But cool enough, on the Atari 600, it's basically the same machine as the 800, the Atari 600 XL. It's a little bit shorter, but the main difference is the Atari 800 XL has that monitor port. And what did Adam give me? He gave me a monitor cable. So that plugs up to the back of the computer, and then you have your composite video and mono audio. So yeah, it only did mono audio. This was the 8-bit era, so don't frown on it. And well, you got all these different devices, so each one needs its own power supply. So you got a power supply for 1, power supply for 2, power supply for 3, power supply for, and this is for the computer itself, I believe. I think this is the 2 hard drives, and that's this, yes, the 810. Oh, it even works on the 1050. So this, I don't know. Anyway, and this is for the computer itself. And the computer plug is also like that, so I think there was a possibility you could jam this into your video port and short out your machine, but that seems like it has more pins on it. Let's compare again. Yeah, that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're small pins. And this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're a little bit larger pins. So maybe you could plug your monitor into the power plug and just nothing would happen. So I guess that wouldn't be a disaster. But, you know, this is kind of a games machine. There were a few applications for it and cool, nifty utilities, but it was mostly a games machine. So, what else did my buddy Adam include in this package? Well, he gave me a Wilco. It was that old school. You'd hold it, yeah. You'd hold it with your left hand, or no, you hold it with your right hand like this, and that would be that's your button. It only had one button, and then you'd use your other hand and control it like that. And it is an analog, not analog. It's got the those buttons, whatever those are called. And then here's kind of an El Cheapo. I remember having something similar to this back in the day. I think I bought it at Radio Shack or some like game or something store. So these were kind of things like this were, and it's kind of like you hold it like a flight stick and it's got the one button on top. But they were kind of cheap. They didn't have the kind of control that the Wilco had. But the creme de la creme, the top of the line back in the day was the Wilco command control. And this sucker, this is like a badass little joystick. Look, it's like your standard joystick. However, it's like heavier, and it had this little switch because it has two buttons, right? You got your top button, so you could just use one hand and use your thumb, or you could use two hands, hold it here, and click that, and use your second hand here. So use your first hand there. I'm holding the camera, so I can't do it. But it has this little switch. So do you want to use the base button, or do you want to use the stick button? So it's selectable. So that is everything that my buddy Adam gave me, and I'm going to be hooking this up pretty soon and showing it off, but I just wanted to show you what I had so you'll be prepared for the next video featuring the Atari 800XL, my very first microcomputer or home computer or whatever you want to call it. My first delving into computing and BBSs and being, it's not the online that we call today as in the internet, but back in the BBS days, you could own a BBS, you'd have a certain amount of time that you could be online. I think it was like 30 minutes. Most sites were like 30 minutes to an hour, and they would have like these games that you could go on, and you could like make a couple of turns, and you wouldn't know what was going to happen because you're playing against all the other people on the BBS. And then you'd come back the next day and you'd find out, oh, did they take over my space colony? Did I get attacked? Or can I just keep on moving on and building? And then you'd have like, you could make maybe 4 or 5, or depending on how the sysup, the system operator of the BBS, would set it up, you could have different numbers of moves you can make each time you're online, and that was once every 24 hours. So it wasn't like this MMORPG stuff. It was like you had to think about what you wanted to do, go on the BBS software, tell it what you want all your moves to be, and then all the other users would get on within a 24-hour period, and then you come back on 24 hours later and find out, hey, did I take over this planet I was trying to get? Was I ransacked? Was I defeated? Did my ship blow up? Did I lose some troops? You wouldn't know till 24 hours later. So just count yourself lucky for being in 2020 if you don't remember these days. But I kind of long for those days. It was kind of cool, and I kind of miss it, but I'm just reminiscing. And I hope you come back for my next Atari video, because I'm going to be setting all this stuff up and showing off its capabilities. Alright, well, you have a great night, and I hope you come back for part 2, and there might be a part. I'm not sure how many parts there's going to be. I don't have as much to do on this machine, but I might open it up and take a look at the insides, but I'm pretty sure it's just going to plug and play. I'm not too worried about it, because the Atari, just like Commodore, they did good work. So please come back for my next video, and I hope you enjoyed this one. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. If you did, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel. And I hope you enjoyed this. Alright, you have a great night, and greetings, and sign off from Quintech Retro. You have a great time. Thank you for joining me.